Hey everyone! In today's Explainer, we are tackling a massive topic, AI accountability. And I'm not just talking about good intentions or some feel-good ethics checklist. We're going beyond that. So let's dive right in.
We hear about the promise of AI all the time, right? It's going to revolutionize healthcare, make public services work better for everyone. The potential is just enormous. We're talking about new solutions for our most complex problems, a huge boost to the economy, and maybe even a chance for us all to flourish.
But here's the flip side, isn't it? What happens when these amazing tools create a whole new set of problems? And they do. As powerful as these systems are, they can cause significant real-world harm. We're talking about eroding our ability to make our own choices, devaluing human skills, and making inequality even worse. So, how do we fix this? To get to a solution, we first have to really understand the problem. Researchers call it the AI accountability gap. Think of it as the giant canyon between what an AI system is supposed to do and the impact it actually has on people's lives.
And listen, this isn't some abstract theory. This is happening right now. You've probably heard of the gender shade study, which showed how facial recognition systems failed darker-skinned women at totally alarming rates. We've seen AI tools used in courtrooms that unfairly deny people bail, and systems that manage public services can make things even harder for the most vulnerable families. These aren't just little bugs, these are deep systemic harms.
Okay, so what's the big idea to fix this? It's something called an Algorithmic Impact Assessment, or an AIA. The best way to think about it is like an environmental impact report, but for algorithms. You know how before you build a new factory, you have to study its potential effect on the environment? Same idea. It's a structured process to force a hard look at a system's consequences before they spin out of control.
These assessments are designed to hunt for two main kinds of harm. First, what we call harms of allocation. This is when an AI system is unfairly giving or taking away opportunities or resources, like getting a loan or a job interview. Second, there are harms of representation. Now, this one is more subtle, but just as damaging. It's when a system reinforces negative stereotypes, making certain groups feel invisible, or worse, cementing harmful ideas about them.
So, this AIA thing sounds pretty good, right? Problem solved? Well, not so fast. And this is really the core of what we're talking about today. It turns out that just having an assessment process often isn't enough. A lot of organizations are trying, but they keep falling into the same predictable traps that make the whole exercise pretty much useless.
So, what's going wrong here? If a company says it's trying to be responsible, why isn't it working? Well, it's not always about bad intentions. More often than not, it's about a broken process.
A huge issue is the lack of any external oversight. When an organization just assesses itself, it's basically grading its own homework. You have the fox guarding the henhouse. This can lead to what a lot of critics call ethics washing, where a company can look good on paper without making any real meaningful changes.
Okay, so let's break down where things go wrong. First up, procedural flaws. The timing is just all over the place. Some assessments are done way too early, before anyone really knows how the system is going to work. Others are done way too late. It's basically an autopsy after the damage is done. A lot of them are just treated as a one-and-done checkbox, but AI systems evolve. And maybe the biggest flaw of all, there's often no way for the people actually being harmed to provide feedback.
Another massive failure point is having a scope that's just way too narrow. The assessment can get super technical, filled with metrics and jargon that completely miss the human experience. If you can't easily measure a harm with a number, it often just gets ignored. And this is a classic mistake, fixating only on the algorithm, the model, and forgetting that an AI system is a whole ecosystem of data, people, and processes wrapped around it.
And finally, you have the messy, real-world organizational challenges. The people actually trying to do this work will tell you they don't have enough time, they don't have the budget, and they don't have the specific expertise. Leadership might say all the right things about responsibility, but if it's not a real priority on the product roadmap, it just doesn't happen. Plus, there's often a lack of basic tools and standards to do the job right.
All of this brings us to the biggest failure of all, treating an AI like a simple checklist. It is not a document to be filled out and then filed away to gather dust. It is a process that's designed to start a difficult but absolutely necessary conversation.
Okay, we've talked a lot about what goes wrong. So how do we actually get this right? We need an actionable framework that helps us avoid all those traps.
A successful AIA really boils down to a clear four-stage loop. First, you identify who could be affected, paying special attention to the most vulnerable. Second, you analyze the risks before the system ever goes live. Third, and this is so important, you actually act on what you find. And finally, you evaluate continuously. It's a cycle, not a straight line. And if we dig a bit deeper, a truly robust process has a few key components. Public access is vital because it allows for outside scrutiny. The assessors themselves matter. Are they independent? The method has to be diverse, combining technical data with real-world qualitative input. And finally, there has to be a path to redress, a way for people who have been harmed to seek justice.
And this is absolutely crucial. Accountability isn't a one-time check at the launch gate. It has to be a commitment that spans the entire life cycle of an AI system. From the very first design conversations, through development and testing, into live operation, and even to its eventual retirement. It's a cradle-to-grave commitment.
So you can boil all of this down to 3 essential pillars. You need a robust process with clear documentation and risk management built in. You need the right people involved. That means real consultation with affected communities and independent reviewers. And all of it has to be grounded in principles like fairness, proportionality, and a respect for fundamental human rights.
All right, let's pull back for a second and look at the bigger picture this framework helps us see.
At the end of the day, an AIA isn't about producing a perfect, legally bulletproof document. It's a tool. A tool that, when you do it right, forces a conversation. It's meant to spark critical reflection on the real social and ethical consequences of what's being built.
So let's wrap with the key takeaways here. First, an AIA is a continuous process, not a one-off product. Second, real accountability can't happen in a vacuum. It needs outside input. This whole thing is a cultural shift, not just a procedural one. And the true measure of success isn't a flawless report, but a vibrant, ongoing, and honest dialogue. And that leaves us with one last question for every single organization building these systems. It's the question an effective impact assessment forces you to answer, not just once, but every single day. Is the AI you're building creating genuinely shared value, or is it just creating new problems for someone else to solve?